Hi, I'm Lisa, and today we're going to be talking about Azul. I was inspired to talk about this game because I got a call from my brother and sister in law who were a little confused about how to play this game. It was a recommendation of mine, and it made me realize that even though it's such a simple, pretty game, that sometimes it's a little difficult to play. So in this video, I want to give you an overview of the components. I want to show you how to play it, and I want to give you my final thoughts. Okay, so let's take a look at the box here. Beautiful artwork. Definitely see the Portugal artwork coming through. It's a game by Michael Kiesling, and it is published by Next Move. It's a light box. It's got that standard square shape, so it should fit on your shelf with no issue. Turn it over, it gives you a little bit of information about the game itself. It says ages 8 plus, probably pretty accurate there. It is for 2 to 4 players, and it plays good at all of those play counts, 30 to 45 minutes. I think this is a quick game. Once you get the hang of it, I would say 30 minutes a game. Probably, if you have more players, obviously the playtime can go up. But let's take a look inside. So just shake it open. Ooh, a little tough there. There we go. All right. We have Plan B games, marketing materials. We have the rule book itself. And the rule book is pretty straightforward. It is a simple game. However, there is complexities to it. And I find it can be difficult for someone to just take a look at the rule book and understand how the game is played. The scoring is a little funky. It makes sense after you do it a couple times, but that's why I think a how-to video is going to be helpful in addition to the rule book. You have good components, which are these boards, and every player is going to have a board like this. It's two-sided. The difference is on the original side, where I think a beginner should play, has the pattern laid out for you. As you get more advanced and comfortable with the game, you can use a side like this, which is blank and allows you to make up your own pattern. This variant would still follow the same rules of patterns not being in the same column or row. So even though you would be able to pick where the blue or the yellow piece goes, you would still have to follow the same rule, where in the same row or column, it does not have a repeating piece. So you get 4 of these game boards, and they're of good quality. The pieces actually come in these plastic bags. I decided to hold on to them for whatever reason. I could probably use them for another game, but you're really never going to use them again, right? Because you can store all the pieces in this really pretty bag here. And the pieces are of good quality. So these are just plastic pieces, and they have those designs printed on them that you saw on the board. You got these cardboard circular dishes in which you'll lay the pieces on. And then you have a couple of these plastic pieces here. So these black pieces, which are going to be used for scoring. And then this 1 point tile, which ends up being used for a negative point, which obviously I'll get into when we set this up and go through how it's played. But everything fits nicely into the insert. Great quality components. Let me get this set up and show you how it's played. All right, so I have it set up right now for a 2-player game. If you were to set this up for a 3 or 4-player game, it would look the same, other than these discs in the center would change. So for a 2-player, I have 5. If I had a 3-player, there'd be 7 of those tiles. And for a full 4-player game, you'd have all 9 of them used. So every player has a board in front of them. You have your black scoring piece set to 0. And again, we're playing with the basic version where we're not building our own variant. This is an abstract game. I don't know how deep the theme really runs when you're playing it, but ultimately what you're doing is you are building your beautiful tiled wall. using the components that you see in front of you. The rule book states whoever was the most recently visited to Portugal would go first if no one in your game group went to Portugal, or if you don't like that, obviously you can come up with your own way of deciding turn order. It also states that the first person would actually have this one token here. I don't see that it matters. I actually prefer to keep it in the center, and you'll see why. But here's how gameplay would work. So the game is played over a series of rounds. In the round, there are two distinct phases. The first phase is tiling your wall by picking pieces from the factory, and the next phase is scoring. So let's just start with picking pieces from the factory. So on your turn, you're looking at the different discs and you see the different colors available. Okay, what you ultimately want to do is fill up your game board here on the left. So these blank floor tile pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Each of these to then score need to be completed, right? So at the end of the game, if I only had 2 of these out of the 3, I wouldn't be able to move those over for scoring. So I'm bringing this up to start talking about strategy of the different pieces that I'd want. Also, the entire row needs to be filled in with the same pattern. So you can't start putting in red and blue and black in the same row. Once you've committed to a color, you have to continue with that color. So if I'm going first, maybe something I'd want to do is I see 3 of those blue and white pieces. So I would take those blue and white pieces and I would put them right here on my board to make this row. But that's not it. I can't leave any piece on the factory disc like that. I have to push them into the center. So that would complete my turn. Okay? If you ever want to take something from the center, you can't do it without any repercussion if you're the first person to do it, which I'll get to in just a second. So the second player might do something like this, right? Maybe they'll take these 2 red pieces and they'll put them right here on their board, completing that section right there. And again, moving pieces into the center. So that's going to go back and forth until there's a good amount of pieces in the center. So let me go ahead and speed that process up for you. Okay, so I moved it ahead. I played a couple back and forths, and now you can see there are no more pieces available on the circular discs. You don't have to wait for all the pieces to be removed from the circular disc to grab from the center. But the first person who grabs from the center doesn't do it without the repercussion of taking that one piece, which will then go on the factory floor. So it's actually player 2's turn. Same rules apply where you have to take all of the same color at once. If I'm going for that blue and white piece, I can't just take one. I have to commit and take all 3. So player 2 decides to take all 3 of these pieces from the center, but also will need to take this one piece as well. The way it's going to work is player 2 will lay out the pieces on their board in the spot that they want. And then they're going to put that piece on the bottom where it says -1. So just to show you on the floor tile, these are where the broken tiles go, meaning when you get to the scoring phase, there are negative points deduced from your score based on how many tiles end up going there. Another situation in which you'll be utilizing that negative points placed on the broken floor tiles is if you're taking more tiles than you need for a row. So if I wanted to complete this blue and white space here, and I see that there's 3, even though I only need 1, if I grab all 3 of them, since I have to, and I place my 1 there, my other tiles have to go on my broken floor. So keep that in mind as you're planning the different colors and tiles that you're taking. Additionally, on your turn, if it was my next turn here, let's say I was to grab red, right? And I didn't complete a row. If I went ahead and put it here, you'll notice that I'm still 1 short. I need 1 more red before I'd be able to use that for scoring. And I can't use any other color in its place. Play goes back and forth until all of those colored cubes are used, and then we get into the scoring phase. So the scoring phase is where people start to get a little tripped up. So let me walk you through it, and you'll see it's all not that complicated. So again, we went through all these tiles. Let's pretend we've filled our boards up as much as we can. And now we're looking at our factory wall and comparing it to the pattern here on the right. So what we're going to do is slide things over and score appropriately. So I have one yellow. I've completed this row here. That moves easily over into that row there. That would be 1 point. One tile, 1 point. So I can immediately take my marker, put it on 1, right? Same thing with this red. Now I've completed the row, so I can slide over my red. And now this other red goes back in the box. Doesn't stay on your board. It doesn't go back in the bag. It literally goes in the box. We're removing it from the game so that we can continue to use the tiles that are in this bag. That would be another point. And again, on this row, move over the blue and white, take these, put them in the box, not in the bag, score another point. So I would have 3 points, 1, 2, 3, and that aligns there. Now this red one, I can't score on. I only have 3 out of the 4 needed to move this over. So that's going to be a goal of mine on the next round to be able to complete that set. Not only that, I do have some negative points because I overgrabbed those blue and white tiles on my turn. So I would actually have -1, -1. That'd be -2. So my score would go from 3 back to 1. And again, those go in the box. After you've completed the second phase of the round of going through scoring, the next player then builds up the factory floor, taking from the bag, not the box, and putting 4 on each of those tiles. I want to go through another scoring example. So let's pretend at the end of the round, my wall looked like this, okay? We went through the phase of pulling this cubes from the factory, and now we're about to move them over. So I would have already had 3 points from my previous round scoring. But now, let's say I was able to add a tile here, and I was able to add a tile here. So my 2 new tiles this round would have been that blue and that red. I've already scored for that 3 in the previous round. How would I go about scoring these new tiles? When tiles connect in a row or column, you actually add them together. So I wouldn't just get 1 for this new tile. I would get 1, 2, right? So that would bump me up to 5. I wouldn't get just 1 for that blue tile. I would get 1, 2, 3. So I'd add another 3, and that would put me up to 8. That's the complicated portion of Azul scoring. It doesn't count on a diagonal. So notice that this other red piece, that's a diagonal piece. That doesn't matter when you get those additional points. So keeping tabs of your board and trying to train them into rows and columns is definitely a good strategy to rack up those points quickly. The end game is triggered by the first player to complete a row on their patterned board. It doesn't mean that they win. It just means that now we've entered final scoring. So other than the score that you would have by placing all your tiles and counting them the way that I've showed you previously, there's additional scoring components that you see down here on the bottom right of your player's board. You'll get 2 points for every completed row. So that would be an additional 2 points. You get 7 points for every completed column. So that would be an additional 7 points. And then you get 10 points for every completed color set. So in this example, we've completed the blue and white. That would be an additional 10 points. Each player tallies up their score. And what's great about this game is you don't have to do it one by one around the table. You can kind of do it independently and share your scores before you move into the next phase. Whoever has the highest score wins. All right, so that's Azul. What are my final thoughts? I really, really like this game. Even though it is not too in depth on theme, I don't think it matters. I really do like an abstract game. I was given this game as a gift, so I would totally recommend that. If you're looking for a gift for someone who is a gamer or maybe they're not a gamer, I still think that is an excellent, excellent choice. I love having this in my collection. I do think that it is a pretty good gateway game as well to get somebody into gaming. I think it's a short playtime, so it's something that you can play rather quickly in 30 minutes or less. There is that complexity in the rules, even though it's so straightforward and simple. The scoring system is just funky. So it takes maybe a round or two to really understand it for someone to feel comfortable to kind of get that scoring on their own. But yeah, I would totally recommend this. I think this is a must have on your shelf. And it's something that you can find readily available on Amazon or Target. And it's under $30. So it's definitely a great buy. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this helped make decision on whether or not Azul is good for your collection. And remember, never stop playing.